From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacañang, and I'm your host, Leo Magpayo. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said 7 individuals with warrants of arrest linked to the flood control anomaly are now in the custody of authorities. In a video message posted on his official Facebook page on Monday, the president said 2 more are set to surrender, while 7 remain at large, including Zaldico. Officials are urging the remaining suspects to turn themselves in. They also warn that anyone aiding these fugitives will be held accountable under the law.
Magandang araw po sa inyo lahat. Muli po ako magre-report sa inyo tungkol sa mga iba't ibang development doon sa mga flood control project na kaso at para malaman po ng ating minamahal na taong bayan kung ano na ang naging progreso. 7 na po sa mga individual na may warrant of arrest sa Sandigan Bayan kaugnay sa mga flood control anomalya ang nasa kustodya na ng ating mga otoridad. Isa naman sa kanila na inaresto ng NBI at 6 naman ay voluntaryong sumuko sa CIDG. Meron din 2 akusado po na nagpahayag na ng intensyon na sumuko at susundin na ang PNP CIDG. Yung isa pong nahuli ng NBI ay natagpuan doon hindi sa kanyang sariling tirahan. Kaya't mananagot din yung mga nagtatago sa kanila. At kaya't sinasabi natin, yung mga may balak na tulungan itong mga ito, ay ang pinakamalaking tulong na ibigay ninyo sa kanila ay mag-surrender na sila. At para makasagot na sila dito sa mga aligasyon na hinaharap nila. Wala pong mga special treatment itong mga ito. Mananatili sila sa kustodya ng NBI habang inaantay ang utos ng korte. Muli, sa 3 warrant at 16 na pangalan, 7 na ang hawak ng ating otoridad. 2 susuko na. 7 ang mananatiling at large at kasama na dyan si Saldico. Sa lahat ng natitirang akusado, ang aking payo sa inyo ay sumuko na kayo. Huwag nyo nang antayin na habul-habulin pa kayo. Mas maganda para sa sitwasyon ninyo na sumuko na kayo para maganda ang inyong pagsagot sa mga aligasyon na dinala kontra sa inyo. Sa mga nagtatangkad tumulong sa pagtatago, tandaan ninyo na kahit papaano, mananagot din kayo kung kayo ay nagtatago ng isang fugitive from justice. Tuloy-tuloy po ito. Hindi kami titigil, hindi kami hihinto. Maraming salamat po.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
In a related story, the Bureau of Immigration, or BI, has placed all international airports and seaports in the country under heightened alert after the Sandigan Bayan issued warrants of arrest against former Congressman Elizalde Co and 15 others on November 21st. The agency has entered the names of those involved into its centralized derogatory database to immediately flag and verify if they attempt to leave or enter the Philippines. Immigration officers have been directed to coordinate promptly with the Philippine National Police, or PNP, to enforce the warrants should these individuals be intercepted at ports of entry or exit. According to BI records, 4 of the individuals on the list are currently abroad. These include Ko, who traveled to Singapore on August 6th, Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH officer in charge of planning and Design Division Chief Montrex Sis Tamayo, who flew to Qatar on November 15th, and 2 officials of SunWest Incorporated who departed for Australia and the United Arab Emirates on October 2nd. The Bureau of Immigration has committed to working with law enforcement agencies to ensure that the warrants are enforced once these individuals return to the country.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Sunday likened Christmas to the nation's emotional reset button, urging Filipinos to pause, reflect, and reunite with loved ones after a year of strong typhoons, economic challenges, and government probes into irregular flood control projects. Speaking at the traditional Christmas tree lighting at the Kalayaan grounds in Malacañang, the president said, "The season carries special meaning for Filipinos, especially overseas workers who return home only during the holidays." With humor, President Marcos remarked that he feels no pressure even as his administration faces corruption issues and political storms. The chief executive stressed that the holidays allow people to slow down, look back on the year, and focus on family. Christmas, he added, is a chance to reset and begin anew.
What a joy it is to be reminded that we are now in the Christmas season. No matter how heavy the loads that we feel sometimes in the work that we do, hindi ako yan. Yung mga cabinet secretary, may mga sila ganyan. Ako, wala ako nararamdaman na ganun. I don't know what they're talking about when they tell me about it. But, for all of us who, everyone has challenges that they had to go through. But every time we start to hear the Christmas carols on the radio, every time we start to see the decorations go up, and again, like I've always said, we are the only country that puts up Christmas decorations starting in September. And people cannot understand why that is. But that is because we are Pinoys. And Pinoys have Christmas has a special meaning to Filipinos. And that's why we celebrate it really very, very, very seriously, and really take the time out to once again be with family, once again be with loved ones. And there's an added dimension to that, is that because we have millions of Filipinos who are working and living abroad. And Christmas is often the only time that they can come back and be with their families. And that is why it means something special to us Filipinos. It always has, but it continues to mean even more. And what does it mean? It means that once again we examine our lives, I suppose, and look back and see what has happened. But at the same time, it is a time to maybe put down what we are carrying and spend more time, because we always, especially those of us who are very busy, we sometimes neglect our family. We sometimes neglect those that we love. And this is the time for us to take that time. It's perfectly all right that, take a little time off and spend some good time with your friends, with your family. And that is why when we feel the spirit of Christmas in the air again, we immediately take flight and remember what is nice, what is good, what is happy, what is joyous in Christmas. And of course, that always includes family and of course the kids. Christmas is for children. But children of all ages, though, because whatever age you are, you can still enjoy Christmas as well as any child And that is what we should be doing, so that we come back refreshed. We come back with new ideas. We come back with new blood. We come back with something that will contribute to what we are doing. And that will come from just spending good time with our loved ones, and to remember that this is the celebration of the birth of Jesus, and to once again dedicate ourselves and our lives to that service.
Including House Speaker Boji D and other officials, enjoyed Puso ng Pasko, performed by Alice Reyes Dance Philippines with the Manila Symphony Orchestra and the Ryan Kayabyab Singers. The palace also recognized winners of the Isang Bituin, Isang Mithiin National Parole Making Competition.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has urged Filipinos to honor the legacy of the late Senate President and Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile, recognizing his lifelong contributions to the nation. In a eulogy at Malacañang Palace, the President described Enrile, known as JPE, as his uncle, friend, and mentor who imparted valuable lessons and guidance. President Marcos praised Enrile's devotion to work, family, and country, calling him a Filipino in the purest and best sense. He thanked Enrile for his service to the Marcos family, the Filipino people, and the nation, lauding his wisdom and high standards in public service. The chief executive noted that Enrile's contributions are difficult to measure as he continued working well into his later years. He admired Enrile's resolve, saying the statesman never compromised the national interest. President Marcos added that it will be difficult for the country to find another public figure with Enrile's character and intellect.
I am tasked to give some form of eulogy for Tito Johnny and to the remembrances of his life. But mine will only be a small voice, together with the voices of the greats, the icons of our history, of our legislature, of our legal system, of our jurisprudence. It just goes to show that he has touched every part of Philippine society, and not just touched, but influenced it greatly. And he worked very hard to always do that for the good. And so there are many commentators who can better express the greatness in those grand settings that I mentioned to Tito Johnny. So perhaps what I can contribute is how I knew Tito Johnny. And maybe a more intimate portrait of, well, a child and a boy, and finally a grown-up, and now a president. I don't actually remember the day that I met Tito Johnny, that somebody said to me, that my father probably would say, this is your Tito Johnny. I don't remember anything like that. What I do know is that since we came to live in this palace, he was a constant fixture in my life. He was always here. He was always there. And it was such a close relationship between our families that it wasn't just at work here in the offices here. But when I saw you today, Katrina, I remembered we used to spend Easter in Baguio together. And Jack, you remember that. And that was how intimately close we were. But he was my dad's guy, and although you could tell that he had a special place even in my father's heart, only because, and the reason I say that is because there are very few people that I saw my father not give just instructions to, but listen to. And that was the man he was. He was devoted to his work. He was devoted to his family. He was devoted to the country. And there is no higher praise than I can make of anyone that I know that has served in government, that has served the country. There is no greater praise for anyone than to say that he lived, he was willing to die, he was willing to bleed for the country. And that's what we will miss. Perhaps we don't find so many of those people anymore. So as we grieve the loss of JPE, let us also be grateful that at some time in the history of the Philippines, there was a man who devoted his entire being to the service of the Filipino.
Enrile passed away on November 13th at the age of 101. Born in Gonzaga, Cagayan Province on February 14, 1924, he was a central figure in Philippine politics for 7 decades, serving in key roles across both the legislative and executive branches. Meanwhile, the former Chief Presidential Legal Counsel was laid to rest Saturday at the Libingan ng mga Bayani in Taguig City, receiving full military honors for his decades of service in government. A funeral mass at the Santuario de San Antonio Church in Makati preceded the burial, attended by family, colleagues, and friends. Uniformed personnel stood in formation as Enrile's flag-draped casket was carried out before a funeral march brought him to his final resting place. Defense Secretary Gilberto Chodoro Jr. led the military honors. Enrile served under multiple administrations and held key posts across both the executive and legislative branches. A lawyer by profession, he rose to prominence in the 1960s as Justice Secretary and late Defense Minister, becoming a central figure in the nation's political events of the 1980s. He went on to serve several terms in the Senate, chairing major committees and leading the chamber as Senate President from 2008 to 2013. In his later years, he was appointed Chief Presidential Legal Counsel, continuing his long career in public service. Throughout his life, Enrile helped shape national policies, legal reforms, and defense initiatives, leaving a lasting imprint on Philippine governance.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. will face the media in a press conference scheduled at 3 o'clock on Monday afternoon. The briefing comes after his earlier pronouncements on developments related to legal actions against personalities linked to the flood control mess. The last time the president held a press conference with the Malacañang Press Corps was on November 13th, when he said that before Christmas, some individuals involved in the flood control project would be jailed. Just this past Friday, President Marcos announced that the Sandigan Bayan had issued warrants of arrest against former Ako Bicol Party List Representative Zaldico and others. Prior to that, the chief executive also released a video message stating that former Speaker Martin Romualdez and co. could face charges of plunder and indirect bribery following the filing of cases by the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, or ICI, and Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, before the Ombudsman.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, the Philippine fleet is strengthening its naval partnership with Japan as both nations step up security cooperation amid Beijing's growing assertiveness in the West Philippine Sea and the wider Indo-Pacific. Rear Admiral Joe Anthony Orbe, commander of the Philippine Fleet, led a delegation to Japan last week for a series of high-level meetings with the Japan Self-Defense Fleet and the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force, or JMSDF. The visit comes as Manila moves to expand its strategic alliances. On November 20th, Orbe met JMSDF Commander Vice Admiral Katsushi Omachi in Yokosuka, where both sides noted the increasing pace of joint activities, from maritime patrols to humanitarian and disaster relief drills, boosted by the newly signed Philippines-Japan Reciprocal Access Agreement. The pact paves the way for faster interoperability through shared exercises, logistics, and troop access. The delegation also toured JS Kumano, one of Japan's advanced frigates, as Tokyo continues to expand its defense role in the region. The following day, Orbe paid a courtesy call on JMSDF Chief of Staff Admiral Akira Saito in Tokyo, who emphasized the importance of working more closely to keep the Indo-Pacific free and open. The visit highlights Manila's accelerating shift toward like-minded security partners as the Philippine Fleet confronts increasingly hostile encounters in its exclusive economic zone, including water cannon attacks and dangerous Chinese maneuvers in the West Philippine Sea.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine National Police, or PNP, has intensified coordination with international law enforcement to track down and arrest Cassandra Ong, a key figure tied to the controversial offshore gaming hub Lucky South 99. Acting PNP Chief Lieutenant General Jose Melencio Nartates Jr. vowed the PNP will do everything to bring her back to the country so she can face the charges against her. According to the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission, Ong fled the Philippines earlier this year and was last monitored in Japan after her release from detention. She faces an active warrant of arrest issued by the Pampanga Regional Trial Court in May for qualified human trafficking linked to Lucky South 99's alleged illegal operations in Porac, Pampanga. Nartates said the PNP is working closely with Interpol following the issuance of a red notice for Ong. The move follows President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive to intensify the crackdown on illegal POGO operations and ensure accountability for human trafficking offenders.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, good news. Radio Pilipinas World Service, or RPWS, is back on shortwave radio after an 8-month hiatus, reaffirming its commitment to serving Filipinos worldwide with resilient and evolving broadcast services. RPWS, the overseas arm of the Presidential Broadcast Service, Bureau of Broadcast Services, or PBS-BBS, under the Presidential Communications Office, or PCO, suspended its shortwave operations on March 19, 2025. Despite this, it continued to deliver content online without interruption. The suspension followed a directive from United States President Donald Trump in March 2025 to halt all broadcast under the United States Agency for Global Media, or USAGM. The order cut federal funding and placed several staff on leave, including those at USAGM Philippines, which hosts the Voice of America, or VOA, facilities responsible for transmitting RPWS programs via shortwave radio to Filipinos across the globe. Under the leadership of station manager Remigio Sampang, RPWS sustained its overseas service online, ensuring continuous access for overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, and seafarers despite technical technical and logistical challenges. With confirmation from USAGM Philippines, RPWS is set to resume shortwave broadcasts on December 1st, 2025. Its return to shortwave, alongside its expanded online presence, underscores RPWS's resilience and adaptability. Radio, after all, is not fading, it's evolving. RPWS stands as a testament to that transformation.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service is live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our post as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.